Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Bluegrass Dreams of Seams. My name is Cheryl. Yes, I've been gone for a little while, but boy, do I feel better. I needed a break. My brain was just a little bit extended. Of course, then after you take this little vacation that my husband and I decided to get away because we hadn't done that in a while, we needed to rest up from the vacation because you're just so worn out. I'm sure everybody feels that way. You just like, oh. And the older we get, it seems like it takes longer to recover than when we were younger. Maybe that's because you just have to keep going when you're younger. You're working and, you don't have time to just sit down and relax. So while I was gone, we went down to Florida, just below Port St. Joe area, stayed on an island. We were actually an old fishing camp and a very rustic kind of camping. So what do I do when I'm on vacation? Well, hopefully relax, but I always take knitting with me. Now I thought about taking something I could do like hand sewing on, but I waited so long to try to throw something together that I thought, don't try to be in a rush. Just take this. And I took way too much knitting, but I didn't know, for sure how much time I'd have around the campground. Initially, I wanted to knit just outside. The weather just did not permit that to happen, except the first few days we were there. I did work on finishing my socks. These are my design. I did not have a pattern that I followed for these. I just decided I'm going to try this and see what happens. Now, what you might notice is they do look a little bit small, and it's not necessarily because of the cable, although that is part of it. They still stretch really well. I've had them on. They fit really well. I knitted these on a 1.5 needle, and my hands were really hurting. I actually took a couple of breaks, but this is great to have when I'm on the road just knitting. It's a small project and doesn't take up a lot of room. So I have exactly, I think, 27 cables from here down to here is, I believe, what I counted. And then, of course, the back cables ended at the heel. I don't have them, but I have 4 cables going all the way around. Initially, I thought I might write this up and put it on Ravelry as like a free pattern or whatever, but now I'm not even sure if I want to write it up because there's a lot to it that you can't just take it for granted someone knows. You have to have the directions there. So I would need to get the directions clear on the heel and gusset and all that I did. And so anyway, this is my own design, tampered with that a little bit, and felt like I was successful with socks, not with sweaters. I've tried sweaters and it's not working. And then I went ahead and finished my purple sweater, which I'm going to wear today because it's a little bit chilly outside. I had this on Tuesday because it was really chilly outside. And a little later, we're getting out. We still have snow on the ground. The temperatures are just barely above freezing. We're not going to get a lot of melting today, but at least our street is almost clear now. Yesterday, it was still packed with at least an inch or two of ice. So this is finished except for the embroidery work. I did another search again for this pink yarn that I just can't seem to find because I don't know where I hid it. When I got ready to go to Europe and Iceland, I thought, just put it somewhere. Well, I can't remember where I put it. And the things would make sense that I would put it there. It's not there. So I don't know if it fell out. It's on the floor somewhere. It's in another box somewhere. I put it with a different project. I have no idea what I did with it. I've gone through every project box in this closet that's got knitting in it, and it's not there either. And I knew I probably wasn't there, but I just wanted to look. So all I need to do is the embroidery work, and it's little flowers that go where these stems come down. You can barely see them, but there's a little stem like that comes down right in here. And they're pretty far apart. I'll point right here, they're far apart. And I ordered a different shade of purple, almost a lilac color, and this red that kind of pops through in really good light. You can kind of see the tones of red in this. So I ordered that, hoping that maybe I could do a light color in purple petals and then take the red and use it for like the little French knots in the middle. I'm doing a little more for my flowers than what Melody Hoffman does on the original pattern. So this section of the video is going to be about what I've been sewing. I decided to work on making me 2 sample tops because there were 2 patterns I really wanted to try to get a sample top made, but hopefully wearable. So the first of those was an antique pattern from 1980s. I salvaged this from my mother's stash, and this is McCalls 8964, and this is sized medium. Now in the past, anytime I've used a medium pattern from my mother's stash, it has fit me. But this one, when I was cutting it out, this view right here, I got to thinking, you know, I think I'm going to add a seam allowance just for security. I can always take it out. So I added seam allowance on the body as well as I added length to the body. Added 2 inches, and I'm certainly glad I added that 2 inches. Otherwise, I'd be giving this top away. It would have been way too short. But I do like how it's belted there. They show all these with some kind of belter tucked in. But it did go together really easily. Made it in an evening, just like this one. I made it in an evening as well, this view right here. Wanted to test drive that one. I pulled this blue out. I'm pretty sure I bought it at Textile Fabrics in Nashville. Really, really nice knit, blue knit. I have just scraps left. I mean, I can make a Barbie thing or two, and that's it. So cutting this out was quite creative because I had to think, I can't use how they're telling me to cut it out. I don't have enough fabric. But the fabrics are usually wider in knits, and when you have a wider knit, you can take the 2 salvages and fold them to the center, and that gives you 2 fold lines, and you can cut a lot more out usually in your yardage. I had 4 yards. So out of 4 yards, I got 2 tops by doing that little trick. Parts of it I did have to cut when it was folded in half like you normally traditionally cut the fabric, but most of it I folded to the center, got my fronts and other pieces that were on the fold usually, and then a few of the smaller pieces I could get in some areas depending on how it was needed to be laid out. So that's how I was able to cut these 2 garments out of 4 yards of fabric. This one is on the mannequin, so we'll talk about it first. I did this view here, did it last night, a couple of hours, it was done. I think it looks pretty good with my Diane Erickson Fault Lines jacket, but I might like this color a little better, or the black. I'm going to make both of those next week. But here it is. You've got this collar bit, you've got the raglan sleeves. It's got plenty of length, a nice deep band here on the bottom. I did this entire thing on the serger. Not one time did I step over to my sewing machine and do anything. 3/8 inch seam allowance. It was really, really easy to put together. This one is the antique pattern McCalls. And I did, like I said, made a few changes as I was getting ready to cut. And it has just, you know, your big deep sleeves, but these sleeves hit me right here, and this cuff is really, really loose. Like, it doesn't really hug the arm. So I have 2 choices here. I can recut this cuff and just take this off, but I think I'm going to run elastic through it. Open it up here in the inside, this little seam here, and run some elastic and stitch it, and just go with that route. That way it'll kind of billow over that because it is pretty full. And I don't like that I stitched down the cowl. So I think I'm going to take all this stitching out and just use it like they have here in the picture. So that is the only changes I'm going to make to this garment. I am so glad I lengthened it. So glad. Because if I hadn't, I would have had to give this away. So I will be able to use this and wear it. I do have other t-shirt type patterns I would love to try to cut out and make samples. So these that are laying on my table to be cut, this burgundy, like this one, and this burgundy. This is a little bit softer and lighter weight. And this black with this lace. These will be cut out by different patterns. Then I also laid out this knit. I have wanted to make a little cardigan out of this knit for spring. So I think I'm going to go ahead and try to get that made as well. So that's what's planned for next week. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of Bluegrass Dreams of Seams. I really have enjoyed getting back into my routine, knitting and wrapping some things up there, and then get back into my routine of sewing. Look forward to sharing with you again next week. And take note of the last slide. I did change my last slide, and I just thought it was kind of cute and an opportunity to do something a little different. See you next week.